So we had a little bit of a pullback in the market today, and I did buy a little bit more of SMCY and HOOY. And I want to show you how I decide on when to buy, what indicators triggers that buy, and which ones I'm watching for my next purchase. Hello my friends, this is Legend. So today we had a little bit of a pullback, and I used that pullback to buy a little bit more of HOOY. And the indicators that I'm looking at for making that decision is the Bollinger Band and that RSI2. So on that Bollinger Band, as you can see, I've got that turned on. That midpoint is currently sitting at about 52.07. The bottom of the Bollinger Band is sitting at about 45.92. So I had a buy order out there for 48.75, and it kept getting really close to it. If we look at that 5-minute chart, it kept getting really close to that 48.75, but it just couldn't quite get there until toward the end of the day, and then it did, right? It dropped off, and then it popped back up a little bit. So we ended up closing about 48.69, but that did execute, and I was able to purchase a few more shares of HOOY at 48.75, and that was the buy order I had it for. As you can see, the low for the day was 48.71, so I put it right there at about 48.75, and I figured if it got down to that point again, that could be a pretty good buy spot. But looking on this day chart, you can see that we did in fact open and close under the midpoint of that Bollinger Band. And that's one of the indicators that I'm looking at. Friday, we were in that lower part, but we were still touching that midpoint. So I wanted to see if today, if we can open and close in that bottom half of that Bollinger Band, and that's exactly what we did. And I also wanted to see if that RSI2 can stay below 10, and it did. Now, come tomorrow, it's possible I could get another buy point if we're coming on down and possibly even get closer to that bottom of that Bollinger Band, and that would be around that 45.92. I wouldn't mind owning a few more shares at that price. Now keep in mind, none of this is financial advice, and please do your own research before you buy into any stocks or ETFs. But I did let my Discord members know that I was watching, and I had a buy order out there for HOOY at that 48.75. And then I also notified the Discord members at the end of the day when it actually did go through. So that got me a few extra shares right there. Don't mind that at all. I like to buy on the pullbacks. And those pullbacks is the bottom half of that Bollinger Band and that RSI2 being under that 10. And if we zoom on back, you can see that we have a bit of a support line right here around this 47.21. So that could be a good potential buy area. So if it gets down to that $47 range, I will probably look to buy some more, as I can see that being a good buy point. But by getting some extra shares today, that will also increase my share count so that when we get paid out this week for HOOY, that'll just increase a little bit more on the amount that I will make. Now don't forget, the main reason that I'm looking at HOOY for that purchase is because on my stock tracker sheet, if we scroll right over here to HOOY, you can see right here that it's red and my real price per share being $51.49. And I am not going to purchase more shares unless that market price is at least under my real price per share. And the current market price being $48.69 right here, that's definitely under $51.49. So therefore, that purchase is going to help lower that real price per share. And what did it actually lower it to? Well, I can punch it in right here and show you what the new real price per share is going to be, as I got them for 48.75, and I purchased 12 shares at that price, which that was about $585. So my real price per share, which was $51.49, it is now going to be $50.94. and that is about a 1% drop in that real price per share. And I would like to get at least about a 1% drop to make it worthwhile to make that purchase. And of course, the more you buy, the bigger the percentage drop, right? Because if I did go in here and I purchased, say, 25 shares at that price, that real price per share would have dropped to 50.55. So of course, the more shares that you do buy, the bigger the drop and the closer to that market price you're going to get. And of course, if I wanted, and say I bought 200 shares, then that real price per share would have been $49.28. And with the current price being $48.69, that would be a pretty good real price per share to actually have. And then you get paid out that distribution. And the closer you can get to that market price on that real price per share, then the less that market has to move before you're at a break even. So it really just all depends on how much you have to put into it, right? But in the end, we still need the market to move in our favor. But in my opinion, I'm hoping to see a little bit of trading sideways on some of these to help to get caught up and then hopefully pass that market price with our real price per share. So that's what I got for HOOY. And the other one that I did purchase was SMCY. And before we jump into SMCY, if you appreciate this type of content, I would appreciate it if you hit the like button, as it does help this channel out and it gets it out to other viewers. So on SMCY, again, I'm looking at that Bollinger Band and I'm looking at that RSI too. So we can zoom in on this Bollinger Band and you can see it opened and closed on that bottom half of that Bollinger Band. And it is very close to that bottom of the Bollinger Band, right? So I was able to buy SMCY at $8.75. I had a buy order out there that I did share with my members, and it was open, and it finally got filled toward the end of the day, and it bought those shares at $8.75 each. But just like HOOY, why was I buying SMCY? It's not just because it's on the bottom half of that Bollinger Band, but the main reason is because SMCY currently is red for me. So if it's red, that means that if I buy shares at that current price, it will lower my real price per share, which is going to benefit me, get me closer to that break even, and eventually, just like the rest of them that are in green, I can get ahead of it. At least that's the plan. And then if I would want to sell out, I will make money, because all the ones in green, as you can see, are ones that I will profit from if I were to sell. And if we scroll all the way over to the end, if I were to sell everything, I'm going to make about $16.7 thousand. And of course, this number will fluctuate because it does have to do with that current price, because that is how much you would make or how much you would lose selling all your shares at that current price. So because SMCY is red, I was looking at the chart, I set my buy order, and eventually toward the end of the day, it did go through. And for SMCY, I had a buy order out there for $8.75, and we can go ahead and punch that right here on our calculator. And this will be available in the Rev4 stock tracker sheet. And we can go in here. We can simply select SMCY right here, enter in the buy price. And I had a price entered in at $8.75. And I had a purchase order of 25 shares. So that's going to be roughly about $218. And my new real price per share for SMCY would go from that $9.89 down to $9.59, and the current price being $8.72. So that's a 3% drop in my real price per share, and that's pretty good. But like I said, all of these will fluctuate. So on those down days, those are the days that I want to see if it makes sense to buy or not. First of all, is my stock tracker sheet telling me it's a potential buy? And then I want to look at those stock charts and I want to see, is that candle on the bottom half of that Bollinger Band? And is the RSI 2 under 10? And for SMCY, everything checked out. I put in my buy order. It finally filled toward the end of the day, and I purchased those 25 shares at $8.75 each. So lowering that real price per share is only going to help me out, get me closer to that break even, and eventually moving that one into the green. Now, if you notice, there are two other ones that are also red, ULTY and CONY. But is it at a right time to buy? Well, both of them are saying that if I do purchase, I can lower my real price per share. But what does the charts tell me? Well, we can look at that real quick, and I'll pull up ULTY right here, and you can see here is the Bollinger Band. We did close on the bottom half of that Bollinger Band, but since that candle went through that midpoint, I'm going to wait to the next day to see if it can stay under that Bollinger Band in hopes that it comes down a bit more, because buying at a lower price is only going to lower my real price per share even more. The closer to the bottom of that Bollinger Band, the better it's going to help me get closer to that break-even price. And as you can see, the RSI2, it is under 10, right? So this here could have been a potential buy, but like I said, I'm going to wait to see if the next candle opens and closes under that midpoint. It doesn't necessarily have to. I could have bought some today, but I'm hoping that it's moving down, that it's going to come down and possibly get closer to this bottom of the Bollinger Band, and then I can buy more shares at a lower price and get a little bit more bang for my buck, right? So for ULTY, I am watching it, and I could possibly be buying some shares tomorrow, and I would probably be looking around that $37 to $38 range. And how about CONY? And here's CONY. Looks a lot like ULTY, right? It's going right through that midpoint, but it is very close to the bottom of that Bollinger Band too. So could this have been a good buy point? It could have, yes. Because this Bollinger Band is tightening up, I may not actually get a candle to open and close on the bottom half of that Bollinger Band. It may still run through that midpoint because it's getting kind of tight in this area. So that's the reason why I said I don't necessarily say that it has to open and close under the midpoint, but I definitely would like it to be closer to the bottom. And this here is pretty close. So this could have been a good buy point, but I'll wait until tomorrow, as I did purchase HOOY and SMCY today. So CONY looks very good at a potential buy. We'll see if tomorrow if it can stay on that bottom half of that Bollinger Band and maybe even get a little bit more pushed down, and then I can buy some shares of CONY along with ULTY and ultimately be able to lower even ULTY and CONY's real price per share down as well. So if you did notice, I did add this percent decrease right here. So this will calculate how much you're actually decreasing your real price per share if you were to buy that certain stock at the price with that many shares. If you would like to make sure that you're dropping that real price per share, say at least 1% or at least 2%, then you can play with these numbers until you get that certain percentage you're looking for. So if you have that buy price at $8.75 and you want to make sure that you're dropping it at least 2%, then you can go in here and you can just change the number of shares and it will adjust that real price per share percentage drop, and you just get down to that 2% that you were looking for. And now you can see 15 shares at $8.75 is going to cost you $131, and it's going to drop your real price per share down 2%. And in the same sense, if you were looking to drop it 5%, then you can just increase the number of shares. Or also, if you're thinking, well, I think I can probably get it at a cheaper price, and it doesn't matter if it goes through today, tomorrow, or next week, because you can set that price as a good to close. And if it ever did drop down to that price, then it'll buy those shares at that price. So you don't have to sit there and watch it or enter that open order each day. Enter it, set it to good till cancel, and let it be. So if you're thinking, I probably can get SMCY at $8.50 and I'd like to drop it by 5%. So how many shares would I need at $8.50 to drop it down 5%? And we'll try 50 shares and 50 shares took it down 5.8. Let's try 40, and that's 5.1. That's pretty close. So at 40 shares at $8.50 would cost you $340, and that would drop you down 5% on your real price per share and take it down to $9.39 if it was at $9.89 where mine's at, right? So this is something that you can play around with, especially when you're looking to set a buy order. You can come up with your buy price of what you want it at, how many shares you need to get to a certain percentage you want to decrease your real price per share down to. Or you can increase the share number until you get your real price per share down to whatever price you want it to be. So you can either look at that percentage or the new real price per share display here and just change this number until it gets to what you want it to be at. Because if I enter 100 shares, I can take it down to right at $9. This really gives you the peek into the future to see what it would actually be if you were able to buy those shares at $8.50 at 100 shares. But like I said, it will pull in all the ETFs that you have loaded into your spreadsheet, and it will make them as a drop down, and you just select which one you want, and you have to make sure you're selecting the right one because it is pulling the information from that ETF, and then you just enter your price and the number of shares you want, and it does the rest for you. So it's a nice little calculator. I like to use it because sometimes I'm looking for that percent, and sometimes I'm looking to only spend a certain dollar amount. So all of these here are very useful when you're looking to buy more shares of one of the ETFs that you have. So if you don't have a copy of this stock tracker sheet, you're more than welcome to come over, join the Discord where you can get a copy of the stock tracker sheet so that you can enter in your own purchases, distributions into each individual stock tracker sheet, and you'll have one for each one that you own. And then all of that will be pulled right into the summary page. And don't forget the nice little cool links that take you right back to the summary, along with going straight to that individual stock tracker sheet too, just simply by clicking the link for each of the ETFs. So it's a nice little quick get around to go back and forth. You don't have to scroll across the bottom. But the link to my Discord will be in the pinned comments and in the description below. So I think I'm going to wrap it up right there. If you don't mind, hit that subscribe button and smash the like button. It would be much appreciated. And as always, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence before you get into any stock plays. And until next time, Legend out.